I'm Maziar Minovi, the CEO of Eurasia Group, and I wanted to welcome you all. It's such a pleasure to be back. Last time we were here in person was 2019. Of course, the summit went on, as we all did, virtually since then. But it's in the interim, between then and now, a lot has changed. Obviously, the world came to a stop with COVID. We had a land war in Europe with millions of refugees and tens of thousands of people dead, if not hundreds. We've had new administrations in US and Brazil. We've also had an insurrection in the US Congress and a similar event in Brazil. Truly, truly unthinkable things that when we were gathered here in 2019, none of us thought would be in our immediate future. And in fact, if it wasn't for the whims of one head of a mercenary group in Russia, I would suspect that when you use the scanner for the agenda today, we may be having a very different agenda if he hadn't decided to turn around 100 kilometers or so from Moscow. And that's really the point here. The world has become a lot more unpredictable, and we're trying to figure out how to navigate it. And the job of this today is to think about that in the context of Brazil and Latin America. At the beginning of the year, when at EG we set our top risks for the year, as we always do, we had as our top risk rogue Russia, the risk of Putin being cornered, resorting to actions that would surprise the markets and the economies of the world. Risk number two was maximum Xi. In China, the president of China now completely consolidating all of his power, being able to make decisions and change his decisions on a whim, whether it was how to deal with COVID, how much stimulus to the economy, or any other decision. And the risk number three was in and around, we called it the risks of mass disruption, in and around technology and the few technology companies around the world and their leaders making big decisions about how to move the technology forward and how that impacts our lives. And obviously AI and all of its implications has been in the front of our minds since then. And that's really what we're talking about here. In a world where the US is less and less of a global leader, more and more of our future and the decisions we make as businesses and as investors is really dependent on the whims of a few people. And that raises uncertainty and risk. And what we're trying to do here throughout the panels is look at that through the prism of Latin America, look at the impact of phenomena like nearshoring and friendshoring as industrial policy, something that's near and dear to Brazil's political heart for decades, becomes the norm. In a way, you can say Brazil is a world leader in where we're going globally, be it in the US or Europe. Before becoming the CEO of EG, I was an investor, an emerging market investor for about 25 years, and have been basically living through the ups and downs of Latin America and Brazil throughout that period. The good news is that looking at the landscape now, Brazil, to me, seems on an upswing. Thanks to the central bank's ability to act early and act strongly. Inflation is more under control here than many emerging markets, indeed some developed countries. The balance of payments is healthy and growing, and investment is coming into the country and into other parts of the region. The bad news is we've been here before. As I said, in the last 25 years or 30 years, there have been many starts where Brazil and the region looked like they were on their way to stability and ascendancy, be it in the mid-2000s, 2010 or 11, when it was on the cover of The Economist, and I predict fairly soon here now. And every time, whether it was because of domestic policy or international roadblocks, we've had to get back and make the ambitions of the region smaller before regrouping. So throughout the day, my colleagues and I are going to be all here, both in the sessions as well as amongst you, to try to work through all of these interesting issues together. And as you, hopefully you will all stick around to the end to hear my co-conspirator Ian pull it all together at the end of the day and give us some thoughts about truly what this all means about the future. So let me end by thanking our partners, Safra Bank and Pino Nieto, who are not just our partners and sponsors, but have really been throughout the course of EG's involvement in the region, been with us, supporting us. I also want to thank our other sponsors, B3 and the American Chamber of Commerce, who's hosting the event today. I want to thank all of the speakers who are going to be with us in person and virtually. And most of all, I want to thank all of you who've taken time out to attend. Please participate, ask questions. The conference is going to be much richer with all of you involved. So before we kick it off to the panel, let me pass this on to Silvio de Carvalho, the president of Safra Bank. Silvio, thank you.